Yo, what up, y'all? My name is Foreign. I'm a record label engineer. Today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how I mixed this song right here. Check it out.
But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want the pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night out. Just to see you get about that night down. Baby, lights out.
What's love? Every time you drink it, put your feelings.
Cool, let's get straight into it. I've been with a record label now for almost 3 years. I'm going to be showing you guys tips, tricks, and secrets on how to mix songs, specifically how to mix lead vocals on this song right here. It's called What's Love by Lil Bean and 24KGoldn. I'm going to show you guys how I mix the lead vocals and how you can get a professional industry quality sound. So we have 24KGoldn's vocals right here. I'm going to play it for you guys dry with no effects and no plugins other than auto-tune. So let's listen to it dry with no effects. Check it out.
Shawty got that wop, 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 wop. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want the pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night owl. Just to see you get about that nightgown. Baby, lights out.
Cool. So here's his vocals mixed.
Shawty got that wop, 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 wop. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want the pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night owl. Just to see you get about that nightgown. Baby, lights out.
Perfect. So first things first, the first big tip to when you're recording vocals is you always want to record vocals on the quieter side rather than the louder side. The reason why you want to record vocals quieter is because you can always bring the vocal up and you can do more with a quieter vocal. If a vocal is too loud and there's distortion, especially when you're recording with cheaper equipment, when you push a vocal and you're recording it too hot, you're going to distort the vocal. It's going to be much harder to mix and you cannot take distortion out. So it's better to record quieter, especially if you don't have a good treated room and the equipment's not the best. You want to always record quieter. This vocal was sent to me from a different studio, from a different engineer. I recorded Lil Bean at Empire Studios and this was sent to me from a different engineer. So first things first, on the vocal here, I have 2 auto-tune. This is the next big secret and not a lot of people know about. This I saw in a song that was being mixed with Gunna in it, and his engineer had used 2 auto-tunes, and it's kind of like a different alternative to using Melodyne before auto-tune. And what you want to do here is you want to use one auto-tune. And on the first auto-tune, you want to make sure that the retune speed is very low. You know, it's just tapping the vocal. You only want the first auto-tune to just tap the vocal so that when it sends it to the second auto-tune, it's evening it out. So what I did with the first one is I have a retune speed of 40. So once you tap the vocal with the first auto-tune, you want to go ahead and you want to hit it with the second auto-tune. Now, this is going to give you the actual sound that you're looking for, and it's going to do most of the correction. So I have this setting on the first one super low. It's just hitting 40 retune speed. It's barely tapping the vocal. And then the second one is doing most of the work. It just sounds more in key to me when I use this trick. It doesn't need it for every song, but specifically for this song, I use 2 auto-tunes on the lead vocal. So once you put the auto-tune always comes first before any other plugin. Then once you have the auto-tune applied, you want to gain stage. This is the next important tip. You guys need to make sure you're gain staging. You need to make sure you have a healthy signal going into your vocal chain. To figure out how you have a healthy signal going into your vocal chain, you want to pull a meter up, or any plugin that has a meter. I use the SSL channel about halfway through my vocal chain here. And this meter is going to show you exactly where the levels are sitting at. You want the levels to be healthy, not too low and not too loud, because you don't want to distort and you don't want it to be too quiet to where it doesn't feed into the the plugins in. When the vocal is too quiet and you're trying to feed it into plugins, it's not going to actually give you any characteristics of the plugin. It's not going to give you the texture. It's just not going to give you, it's not going to sound like it's being processed at all. So you want to have a healthy signal. And how you do that is you pull up a plugin with any meter on it. And I'm going to show you guys where it should be sitting at. Here, check this out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God, should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want to pipe, then you get piped down.
So it's sitting at literal perfect levels. It's not even tapping the yellow 10. Honestly, it should really only just be tapping the 10, the yellow 10 at the most. It should just be hovering around 15 to 20 right here. And that's where I like to have my levels sit at, around the 15 and 20 mark. You want it to just be on the top of the grain. So that's really how you check to see if you have good levels. And what I did was, because I didn't record these vocals, they came in a little hot, I took it down about 2.5 dB. So I took the vocal down 2.5 dB. I have a healthy signal and I've gain staged the vocal. Now I can go into actually mixing the vocal in my vocal chain. So let's check out my vocal chain here. I'm a firm believer in EQing before compression. You want to clean the vocal and tame it before you send it into a compressor and bring the volume up. So that's what I did. If you guys can spend money on one plugin, really the most important plugin I would say is having a good EQ. Let me tell you why having a good EQ is super important. And it's because a good EQ will give you the visual graph and it'll show you where the buildup of problem frequencies are. You can search for frequencies easier, and it gives you a dynamic mode. And a dynamic mode is super important because it's, as you can see, it's my favorite thing to use, because you want to keep a vocal full and natural. You never want to cut too much. As you can see, I'm only really cutting like a dB and a half, 2 dBs and a half, 2 dBs and a half, because I don't want to always be cutting that frequency at all times. A vocal is super dynamic and it has different problems throughout the song and different keys. When you're singing different keys, there's going to be different points where you want to EQ more and EQ less, and there's going to be different frequencies you want to cut throughout the song. So a vocal is super dynamic and it's always changing throughout the performance. So to do that, to combat that, you want to just use a dynamic EQ to really tap the rest of that problem frequency. You don't ever want to just start cutting and cutting the whole time and always cutting. So when you EQ, you only want to cut narrow. You want your Q to be as narrow as possible. You don't want a wide Q when you're cutting. You want to keep it natural. You want to boost wide but cut narrow to keep the vocal natural and full. So as you can see, I'm gonna play you the vocal so you guys can see the frequencies jump when the dynamic EQ kicks in. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God, should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now.
So as you can see, the dynamic EQ only kicks in when that problem frequency becomes overbearing, and that's exactly what you want it to do. You only want the EQ to work when it needs to, okay? So that's super important. Get a good EQ. The FabFilter Pro Q3 is probably the best EQ in my opinion. So next, once we've cleaned and tamed the vocal, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna compress it. I have two main compressors working in my vocal chain, and that is a 1176 and a LA2A. And this is a famous duo of compressors that a lot of people use on vocals. Now, I mixed this song at Empire Studios, so I used the best alternative plugins I could find on my laptop, and I used the LA2A UAD at Empire, but here I'm using the Waves one. It sounds pretty much the same. So on the first compressor, it's super duper important that when you're compressing vocals, specifically rap vocals, because they're so dynamic and they're constantly punching in and out, you don't want to kill and squash the dynamics of a rap vocal. The most important part of a compressor is having the right settings, okay? So on this 1176, I have a slow attack and a super fast release. And what that's doing is it's letting the vocal punch through before it grabs it. And then after it grabs it, it's releasing it quickly so that it can punch through again and do the same thing. You want to make sure you fine tune the settings and have the attack and release perfect on a rap vocal. Slower attack, a faster release. And that's going to let the dynamics kick in, but you're also gluing the vocal. So we've EQ'd the vocal so far. Now we're just gluing it and then we're bringing the vocal up. Let me show you guys what the compressor is doing and how much it's taking the vocal down.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God, should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want to pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm...
So perfect. It's barely tapping the vocal. 1 to 3 dB at the most. It's just barely taming and tapping the vocal. When you're mixing anything and mixing vocals specifically, you want to do very minute gradual changes for a bigger overall effect, okay? So you don't ever want to do too much with one plugin. We're just trying to make gradual small changes, and that's what I'm doing with this first compressor. It's only tapping 1 to 3 dB at the most, and then I have it feeding into a de-esser. And so we've compressed the vocal, we've cleaned the vocal with the EQ, compressed it, brought it up, tamed it a little bit, glued the vocal. Now we're just tapping a de-esser. 5500 hertz is usually where a male human vocal S's sit. As you can see, it's gonna barely tap it as well. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God, should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't
cool. It's just tapping the S's and the T's. So we're just slowly, gradually making minute changes to the vocal. Now we have my second compressor, which is a LA2A. It's a slower compressor. This is just going to tap the vocal 1 to 3 dB. It's barely working. You want it to barely work, just to barely glue the vocal a little more. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God.
As you can see, 1 to 3 dB, it's just gluing the vocal, and we're keeping the dynamics. We used the slow attack on the last plugin and we fed it into this one, and this one's just barely tapping it as well. They're both working in harmony together. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God.
So they're feeding into each other perfectly, and that's exactly how you want to do it. We're just making gradual changes. We've used our second compressor, and now we're just looking to tame the vocal even more. The higher frequency S's sit around 8K, and I believe this should be a little lower, and yeah, it sits around right there. So the higher frequency S's sit around 8K. This is going to tap it a little more. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 and she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God.
Perfect. So it's just barely tapping it. We're just making gradual changes. So the next plugin I have is a channel strip, and this is just a plugin that has multiple different plugins in one. So basically it has a filter, it has an EQ, it has a compressor and a gate. You typically don't want to use a gate on lead vocals. I'm using the compressor here. It's tapping the vocal at the most 3 dB. Then I have a filter that's cutting at 8500 hertz. It's just removing all the low end rumble. As you can see on the first plugin, I cut at 90, but since we boosted the vocal with compressors and stuff like that, I'm just making sure that there's nothing under there, and I'm cleaning it even more. So then I also have a 8K cut at 1 dB because it was a little too bright at a bell Q, as you can see right here. And then right here, I have boosting at 1.5 dB at a wide Q at 1.5 dB. And then here I'm cutting at 640 hertz, and yeah, I'm cutting at 640 hertz, 2.5 dB with a very narrow Q. And another trick here is to use that first graph EQ. And I'm looking at the problem frequencies here. As you can see, 340 is a problem frequency, 640 is a problem frequency. And I come down later down my vocal chain and I use a different plugin to chip away at those problem frequencies even more to kind of shape the overall sound. We're just making minute changes, trying to chip and carve at the vocal. So here, as you can see, a very narrow Q, 2.5 dB at 640. That was a problem frequency right here. Also 350, I took it down with the narrow bell Q at 2 dB. As you can see, around 340 was a problem frequency, a problem area. So I'm just chipping out the vocal. And then also, as you can see, it's compressing just 3 dB. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make.
Perfect. And now we're going to add in the good stuff into the vocal, the brightness, the air. And a lot of people are going to look at me crazy. This is my big secret. I have 2 plugins that are my secret weapon that not a lot of people know about and use. I damn near don't even want to show you guys because it's such a sauce for me that, you know, I don't really tell anybody about it. But the next plugin I use is a C4. And what this is a multi-band compressor that compresses certain frequency areas. And what I'm doing with this plugin is I'm boosting a ton of high end, which is like 16K at 18 dB. I'm just boosting 18 dB of 16K, which is a ton. And it's not realistically adding that much because it's going to tame that frequency area. It's just going to tap it and bring it down when it gets too harsh. So it's almost tricking your ear and letting it hear that frequency area for a split second before it taps it and brings it back down and contains and tames it. So it's basically adding in but taming it at the same time. So check it out. I have 2 dB of 4K added right here, 18 dB of 16K, 1 dB in the mid range, and then 2 dB in the low range. It's a way to add thickness, but without overdoing it. So as you can see, it'll tame it while adding it in certain parts of the vocals. So check it out.
Shawty got that walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right.
So in certain parts, it's letting it be more bright and then taming it. And the low end is letting it be more thicker until it gets overbearing and then it takes it down. So it's letting you hear it at the same time as it's taming the vocal. So I'll bypass it and unbypass it so you guys can hear the difference. Check it out.
Shawty got that walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever when he did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want the pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night out. Just to see you get about that night down. Baby, lights out.
So it really opens the vocal up. On the high end, it really was only adding 4 or 5 dB of 16K instead of 18, but I have it there because I'm opening the vocal up but taming it at the same time. So I really like this trick. Not a lot of people know about it. It looks really ridiculous. A lot of engineers would say this looks crazy and it's not professional, but if you have the right settings and you know how to use it, I think it sounds really, really good. And honestly, it makes a night and day difference in my vocal chain. Now, this next plugin, I don't really use too often. It's an MV2. It's just basically bringing up the low end or the high end. It's compressing and bringing it up. But I don't typically use this. But the reason I use this on his vocals is because the other artist on the song, Lil Bean, he has a much deeper voice. So to have them feel like they're in the same ballpark, I wanted to bring the lows out in 24KGoldn's vocals. I want to compress them up so that his vocal almost seems more full and thicker, and it can compete with the low end of Bean. So the next secret sauce I have in my vocal chain is the Abbey Road saturator. You guys want to use saturation in your vocals. It's going to bring some characteristics out. It's going to make the vocals sound crispier. And this is the best saturator for vocals. Nobody really uses it. No one really knows about it. It's kind of hard to use and you can ruin a sound pretty fast with this. So you want to use it tastefully and know how to actually use it. So this saturator, it has a pre-EQ, a post-EQ, a mix knob, and it has a compounder as well, and it has different settings on the saturator. I use TG I think it sounds the best. Again, I'm using the graph EQ here to look at the problem frequencies, and then later down the road, after we compressed and brought the vocal up, I'm still gradually chipping and carving away at the vocal. As you can see, I'm cutting 640 at a narrow Q, about 3.5 dB. I'm boosting the low end, so again, I can bring that thickness back into the vocal since I've been cutting at it. So I'm just adding in stuff at this point. Also, I'm cutting around 4K at a narrow Q to kind of tame the vocal even more, because the saturator adds a lot of high end, and that's what I did on this post EQ right here. I took the high end down with the shelf because the saturator actually adds a lot of high end in there, and I brought the mix knob down to 26%. So I'll play you guys before and after. It makes a huge difference.
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want to pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night out. Just to see you get her by the night down. Baby, lights out.
So it's almost like it opens the vocal up and it gives it some type of tonality, and it almost sounds dead before. You can really ruin a vocal quick though if you don't know how to use this thing. Let me show you guys what it sounds like at 100%.
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you wrong. But I ain't missing right.
So it sounds good, but it sounds it's way too overbearing, too bright. So you want to make sure you're really using this correctly and just adding it tastefully into your vocal chain. Okay, so that's it for the vocal chain. Here I have some other effects going on. I have a long haul reverb. Long haul reverbs are usually my favorite for vocals because it adds that depth. And I also have a doubler, which is just widening the vocal. So check this out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you.
So we're just adding it in just to widen the vocals up. Next, I have a deep doubler, and then I automate it to bring it up in certain points of the song. So check this out.
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch to make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever went and did you wrong. But I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now.
So as you can see, it's under the vocal just tastefully, and then it comes up on certain parts to create moments in the song. That's my next big tip, is creating moments in the song using automation. You don't always want to have reverb going on at all times. You don't want the deep doubler to be going on at all times. You don't want a delay to be going on at all times. You want to automate those things to come up on certain words and then go away, because they're very distracting to the ear. Especially when you listen to like a big artist like Drake. His vocals are really dry. They're just full, clean, and tamed, and they're very in front of your face. But they don't really have a bunch of reverb, a bunch of delay, a bunch of effects going on, because there's something, and there's an art about having a clean, full vocal. And there's honestly an art to having lack of reverb. So having just a tame, clean vocal that's full honestly sounds a lot better than something that's drowned out in effects. So that's why artists like Drake, you can just tell their engineer knows what they're doing, is because the vocal is just full and it's in front of your face. It's not distracting. So that's what you guys want to aim for. You want to aim for a clean, full, thick vocal that is kind of just in front of your face, and automate certain effects to come up throughout the song to create a moment. So as you can see, I automate the deep doubler right here.
Say, oh my God, should've never ever went
and right here
down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night out. Just to see you get her by the night down. Baby, lights out.
So I also have the long reverb coming in on certain words of the song to create moments, and at the end there's a big delay, big reverb throw that just creates a moment in the song and lets the next artist come in at the end of his verse. So check it out.
Did you wrong, but I ain't missing right, I'm missing right now. And if you want to pipe, then you get piped down. Creep up on you like cause I'm a night out. Just to see you get her by the night down. Baby, lights out.
So it creates that big spacey effect towards the end. and that's all automated with the long reverb. And I'll show you my reverb. And I used the Lexicon reverb for the vocals when I did this at Empire, but I don't have that reverb here, so I used an alternative. And the most important reverb trick is to use the correct reverb timing. The easiest way to do this is look up a reverb calculator on Google, and it'll tell you, if you put in the BPM of the song, exactly what your reverb timing is supposed to be. So for this specific song, it's around 5,000 ms, which is the decay, and then the pre-delay is 75 ms, and that's exactly what it should be for this BPM. And then I also have a EQ after to clean up the reverb, and I add this saturator, the Abbey Road saturator, to the reverb to bring out some characteristics. This thing makes everything really sound good, so I have that on the reverb. I'm basically just using a long haul because I like the depth of it. It's really good on vocals. You can use a plate as well, but I really like long reverbs, and it creates that depth. So really, that's honestly how you mix a platinum recording artist lead vocals. Just a lot of minute details and changes to create a bigger overall effect. So once you get the vocal mixed and it's done, and you have everything sounding exactly how you like it, the last thing you want to do is gain stage one last time. So I've EQ'd, compressed, I've glued and tamed the vocal. Now I want to sit the vocal right on top of the beat. Okay, so you want to gain stage after the plugins, which is what this is doing right here. This is adding gain after these plugins. I'm just trying to get the vocal to sit right on top of the beat. If you listen to it,
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch that make you say, oh my God.
Way too quiet. So I boosted it 3.5 dB almost to get it to sit right on top of the beat.
Shawty got that walk, 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 walk. And she don't ever stop. Type of bitch that make you say, oh my God. Should've never ever when he did you wrong. But
Perfect. So we gained stage previously. We've EQ'd the vocal, we've compressed, de-essed, added the good stuff in, added our effects in, reverb, deep doubler, gained stage after the whole fact, got the vocal to sit on the beat perfectly. You have mixed a lead vocal, and you know, this is what the professionals do. This is how people mix platinum recording artists, people in the industry, record label engineers. With my prior experience, this is honestly the best way to tackle a vocal. And I want to make sure you guys know, when you're mixing, I mix this with the stems at the studio, but here I use the 2-track. You guys want to be making sure that you're taking down the beat 10 to 12 dB before trying to mix it in gain stage and level it, okay? So when you're recording, make sure you take the beat down 10 to 12 dB, take it down all the way so you can record on the quieter side, okay? You can always bring the level back up in mastering, and that's what I actually do. In a different video, I'll show you guys how I master a song. But as far as mixing lead vocals, that's how I approach it. Make sure you guys stay in tune with me. I'm going to have a ton more songs, a ton more videos, a ton more secrets, and just insight in the industry and how these bigger artists are getting their vocals and their songs mixed. If you guys need any work done at all, or any songs mixed or engineered or mastered, please email me or DM me on Instagram. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.